Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga, and I'm Nancy. Without too much introduction, I'm going to reach right into the jar to draw a question out from the jar, and I'll attempt to answer it within 10 minutes. And the questions come from all different areas. Let's see here. Having a hard time pulling one out for some reason. Okay, it's a big one. So I'm going to have a look at it before I got two, so I'll take the top one. Oh my goodness. No, that does not look like a question. Okay. I'll take a deep breath. And I do that just to kind of cue myself to get out of the ego mind, that part of my psyche that thinks it knows everything, that's aiming to please other people, etc. Because we don't really want to spend our lives doing that, do we? We certainly want to care for other people and be compassionate and kind and to help serve other people. But we don't want to spend our time trying to please other people. It's kind of a fruitless activity because we can't please everybody. Okay, set my time there. Anyway, the question I got, and this might actually go with what I just said, how can I meet the expectations of others? How can I meet the expectations of others? I like that question, and I'm getting a lot of those questions around self-approval and having people like us and meeting the expectations of others. So most of us spend a great deal of our lives as these little me's, because we identify as these separate little individuals with a separate body and mind, looking through these eyes, seeing the world through these eyes. And we tend to think, because we're separate, that we are very vulnerable and needing to defend and attack in order to protect this sense of little me that we somehow identified with. We are in social groups because we're social animals, and we have an inherent need to belong to the pack. Maslow's third rung is love and belonging, right? So we do have a biological need, according to many experts, to belong to the pack. And to belong to the pack, that means we must meet the expectations of the pack in our minds. We must meet the expectations set out by social conditioning, from the religious conditioning in that group, the societal, cultural, the belief systems, the moral construct, the legal. So we have this need to fit in and belong biologically, especially when we identify as these separate beings with separate body lines and separate minds. We need it in order to defend who we are in this idea of self with a small s. We need to belong to other people. We look to other people, first of all, to validate our worth, because sometimes without that external validation, we have to tap into a very internal sense of unworthiness that we may have stored inside from one of our samskaras over the years, some social conditioning we got that made us believe at the deepest level that we were not worthy of love and belonging. So we attempt then to redeem ourselves by meeting the expectations we assume other people have of us. So we're looking to other people to mirror who we are, to tell us who we are, tell us what we must do in order to continue to be loved and to continue to belong to the social pack in which we identify as. A Course in Miracles would identify those people we seek approval from, those people we seek to meet the expectations of, as those belonging to the special relationship. And what they refer to as the special relationships is the ego's need to get validation from other egos, so it feels a sense of safety. And it's a pseudo-safety, right? Because we can never, ever have everybody love us all the time the way we want them to. We can never, ever belong all the time. There's always going to be someone out there that we trigger in some way to make them not like us or not want us in their lives or not want us to be around them, right? And this is just the reality of life. Most of us are just psyches. We are living and operating through this idea of what we think we are as this little me who had this experience, this little me who had that experience, this little me that is in the has the role of sister, mother, brother, teacher, doctor, neighbor. You know, we so identify with the exterior surface, the masquerading self, as Yogananda would call it, that we believe that is who we are. And so we are looking at other individuals who are also believing they are their psyches or their masquerading selves, and the roles they play and the experiences they had and their thoughts and feelings and their behaviors. So we're going basically ego against ego, little me against little me, self with a small s against self. And this idea of survival of the fittest often comes into play. Darwinian survival of the fittest in the 1850s, Darwin very cautiously brought that theory out into the public and published his famous treaty. And that was not well received at first, of course, by the church community. But eventually it was, and there was this whole idea that, competition is the way to go. And we become very competitive, comparing my ego against your ego, what I accomplish against what you accomplish, what I fail against what you fail in. And we continue to compare ourselves as these separate little entities. And when we decide that we really need to belong to the so-called special relationship, those people we choose who we think will provide a safe haven for our ego to belong to, we will have to meet their expectations. We'll try to deem what their expectations are. The law, for example, has certain legal expectations for all people in a certain geographical or legal area, constituency, and that will help us to go by the law. If we break the law, we will no longer belong in regular society, and we will be ostracized and put into another community where other people who've broken the law will be, i.e. our penal systems. Or we, in some religious affiliations, will be shunned. If we have religious laws that we are not adhering to, we may be shunned, as in some of those Amish or Mennonite communities, for example, and some of the Mormon traditions. If you don't adhere to the rules that they've set out, you will be ostracized. Even in the Catholic Church, we can be said to be excommunicated from the church if we're not following the rules of the church. We also see that in our school systems. We are told that, through standardized testing, you have to have such a grade in order to fit in a way. Otherwise, you'll be ostracized to another level of learning or remedial or whatever. Or if we don't follow the rules of the school and don't, do what society says within that school system to do, we can be ostracized, suspended from school, for example. And in our social groups, be they our small social groups of our friends or family, we also set up rules that we need to follow, or expectations of us. This is the way you are to act within a family system. And depending on your culture, your belief system, your religion, your upbringing, this is what those rules will differ from one family to another, but we must adhere to them in order to fit in. And our family and friends as well. We belong to a peer group of like-minded individuals, and we have to stay like-minded, meeting the expectations of that like-mindedness in order to fit into that group. So lots and lots and lots of expectations are out there. And the person asks, how do I meet the expectations of everybody? Just imagine that, all those expectations we just talked about. It's near impossible to meet the expectations of everybody. And they are just expectations. Just ideas, just mental constructs on how we are supposed to think, feel, act, and express our energy. They are not necessarily absolute truth or the way we are to be, B-E with a capital B. It's just what we've come to. They're based on conditioning. And the approval that we receive when we meet those expectations in those social groups or social situations is very conditional. It is very dependent on us meeting certain expectations. But where do expectations come from? Expectations come from the broken psyche trying to fix itself, right? So we have over our lifetime stored and stuffed a lot of painful experiences, what we call samskaras in the yogic world, and it is through that veil that we tend to perceive the world around us, tend to perceive the others we're trying to meet the expectations of. We tend to perceive our own lives and our own sense of self through that. And of course, that expectation is a part of a broken psyche trying to fulfill itself by looking externally rather than the only way that it should be looking, and in order to find true peace, and that is inside. Past that veil of psyche, past that veil of samskara, past that masquerading self we are trying to please other people with by meeting expectations of. Our masquerading selves, our personalities, our ideas and me are based on expectations we have of ourselves, based on our conditioning and our belief systems, based on the expectations that others have on us based on their conditioning and their stored stuff and their perspective of how they're seeing the world through all their blurred and flimsy veil of samskara that gets in the way of them truly seeing who they truly are and seeing us who we truly are. So again, it's just ego expecting something from another ego, right? And in true, when we really want to get to the sense of who we truly are, we need to kind of tear away those layers that are in the way. And expectations are one of the first things to go. If I don't expect you as my soulmate, for example, or my partner in life, to be a certain way, because I think that if you are a certain way, I will feel better inside. It has nothing to do with you. It's just this, what I want you to be the way that makes me feel better inside. If I give up those expectations, I will love you just as you are, unconditionally. Expectations place conditions on our love. And without those conditions, we will love from the deeper part of ourselves without conditions. And it wouldn't matter what you do, what you say, how you act, who you are is perfectly okay because I am not expecting you to be any other way. Then I would be freeing you to be yourself. I'd be freeing you from your masquerading self. I would also be freeing me to be myself. And I would be freeing me from my masquerading self because the expectations are a part of that. And then we can extend beyond that special person in our life to all individuals in our special relationships, whether they be our children or our sisters or our brothers or our parents or our neighbors or our friends or the people we go to school with, the people we work with. It doesn't matter. If we remove the expectations that say you have to be a certain way so that I feel good inside, which is erroneously based on this idea of societal expectation, right? But it really comes down to the individual ego, what it needs to feel good inside. If you don't keep stroking and building my ego for me so that I have a sense of esteem when it comes to this masquerading self, the psyche, who I think I am but who I am not, then you will not meet my expectations. But once we give up the need for expectations and simply allow people and ourselves to be who we truly are at the deepest level, peeling the layers of the onion away to get to that deeper self, then we'll see that expectations are not something you should even have to try to meet. So I guess the answer in a short form would be simply say, when this person asks, how do I meet the expectations of others? And I say, don't put your energy in that. Turn your energy away from trying to meet their expectations to understanding why you have expectations, what those expectations you have of other people, and how harmful they may actually be in the long run, and how unrealistic they are. Look inward at your own expectations and why you have them, and slowly begin to release your need for expectations. Well, I am over again my time. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a very happy Valentine's Day. Namaste. One without expectations.